With AI and automation, you can create lists of thousands of high-quality leads in just a matter of minutes. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to do this with a really powerful tool called Clay. I'll walk you step by step how you can create highly targeted lists of leads that you can reach out to directly in your campaigns. My name's Tyler. I'm the founder of Amplus. We're a certified Clay expert agency and one of the only inbound Clay agencies that focus on B2B ads. Let's dive in. So if you've never used Clay, it's a really powerful tool. It started as an email marketing tool mostly for outbound, but it's become one of the most useful tools in the go-to-market space. I can't get into everything that it can do in this video, but odds are if you have some use case where data impacts what you do in your business, there's probably a use case for Clay. Today, we're going to use it for prospecting and creating lead lists. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by going into the platform. Obviously, before we get started, you need to have a goal for your campaign. Likely, if it's your business, you know what you're trying to accomplish, but it starts with a source. We need to source data from somewhere. And one of the cool things is Clay can connect to almost any data source out there. Sometimes it's through website scraping, sometimes it's through connecting to other databases. In this video, I'm actually going to show you how to use Clay's own native database because they have tons of data all here in the platform. But for example, you can scrape job postings on LinkedIn. So if your campaigns involve reaching out to people who are hiring, or if you want to target local businesses, you can use Google Maps data to create company lists that way. For the purpose of this video, I really want to show you the large volume of leads that you can get using Clay. So I'm going to pick a really large market. So we're going to do law firms. And imagine we want to sell an accounting software to law firms or something that has to do with accounting and finance. So we're going to reach out to accountants and bookkeepers and people in finance. So let's start by using our company search. So we're just going to find company search. Now they have a lot of the same filters that you'll see in like Sales Navigator or Apollo. So we're just going to throw in law practice and legal services. We could filter for, you can see there's 500,000 results. We're going to filter for the US only. Obviously, if it's finance, the laws are different around tax and finance in different countries. So we're still at 168,000. Let's just go with, let's say this is for small law firms. So we're going to go with employees 2 to 50. So that's still 130,000. So Clay's limit on rows in a single table is 50,000. So we're going to go with just 11 to 50. That'll get us down to 31,000. So we're going to go with that. So you could add other things in here if you wanted to create other filters. Like you could have keywords, like if you targeted a specific type of law practice, you can do those things, but we're going to keep it fairly simple for now to show how many we can get. So the cool thing is we're going to import this to a new table. If you don't do any enrichments on the companies, like you don't find any specific data, it's all free. So when we import this into a new table, and it'll take a minute to upload, we're going to get all of these. So you can see it's loading right now, but you're going to see that there's a ton of contacts, all these companies, all these law firms, all in the US. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by filtering this list down a little bit. So we already know that it's 11 to 50 employees, but maybe we want to find something more specific. This is where it gets really cool. Using Clay, you can add all kinds of enrichments. Like for example, you can use what's called Claygent, which is essentially a web scraper, and have it go to the site of every single lead and figure out certain things, like maybe they have pricing, or maybe they have certain number of lawyers on their team page. Whatever it is that you can think of, you can probably find it here. Clay has an enrichment here where you can enrich the company, and I'll show you what that looks like. But before we get into that, we got to talk about Clay Credit. So Clay uses a credit system where if you're using other software providers that you want to connect to Clay or using Clay's own data usage, you have to use Clay credits. There's different ways. Sometimes it makes sense to use other providers, and sometimes it makes sense to use Clay's credit system. But either way, there's always a way to get really good data. So what you can do is you can enrich the company using Clay's native enrich company field. And what you can see is that when you do this, it uses the company's LinkedIn URL, or if you want to, you can use the domain to identify the company. And then what you can do is you can add fields here, and you can see all the different things that it can provide you. So it can give you employee count, industry, description, the domain, some of this we already have, location. What I'm going to show you is actually one of my favorite tools for company enrichment is a tool called Company Enrich. They have unbelievable data, and if you use their API to connect directly to their source, it ends up being really affordable and you get a lot better data. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into here. So what we're going to do is we're going to use what's called an HTTP API call, which is going to access my Company Enrich API key and pull in the data. It's a little bit more efficient way to do this. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put in these fields here. So we put in the API endpoint, we put in the token or the API key, and then we use the domain field here in Clay to add that, and then I'm just going to show you what happens when you pull this up. You'll see it's an unbelievable amount of data you get when you run this. So what happens is you see here, you can see that it gives you all this data. It gives you the social media links to the company. It gives you keywords that the company ranks for. It gives you the location. You can get the address. You can get a description of the company, NAICS codes, and it's even crazier is it'll even give you technologies in their stack. So like if you ever use builtwith.com to enrich to figure out what kind of website stack someone has, it will give you all of that information. So it's a really, really cool tool. So for this one, what I want to do is let's just go with, we want to get the location. So we're going to pull in the city, the state, and then what we're going to do is we're going to pull in the address. So we got the city, the state, the address. If you wanted to tailor your outreach by geography, you can do that. The other thing you can do is you can do industry. We already know that because we filtered by that from the beginning. But I think what could be really cool is if we go into, let's just go into technology and let's see. Okay, so this is really cool. Included in all of this, they're giving you an extra enrichment. Builtwith.com is a tool that you can use to enrich a company's tech stack. So for example, if you did stuff related to websites, like if you were a website agency or a web developer, you can see that they're using WordPress built with Elementor here. So you could reach out. You can see they're hosted on Bluehost. They have Gmail embedded, so they're using the G Suite and not Microsoft. So all these things can be really, really powerful when you start to think about how you reach out to people. So we're not going to do anything more specific. So like I said, our use case right now is we're going after finance people within these law firms. So now we have our company data, we have our location data, and here's a really cool one. So let's just say, for example, I live in California and there's really specific tax laws for our state, and we want to show that our software is compliant with people in a specific state. So we're going to use this data for where a company is located. Now it gets to the fun part. We're going to start finding people. So this is where you can go into Clay and it becomes really cool. We're going to do find people. And here's what's cool. As long as you don't add any enrichments, finding people, these companies, just by LinkedIn profile is completely free. So if I go into here, we're going to use our table here and we're going to actually use the company domain. You can actually look it up by the company domain or by the company LinkedIn URL. We use the LinkedIn URL because then we'll probably find LinkedIn profiles more easily. But then what you can do is we're going to go into job title. We don't need to do company attributes because we already filtered that at the company level. Now we're going to go in here and we're going to find job function. So we want people that are in finance. And let's say this is going to turn back a massive amount of people probably. So maybe we're going to need to filter down by like seniority level. So that's not bad. This is 6,000 here. So we want to see, let's just see if we can get accounting as well. No, finance. So you can see here, this found 62,000 people in finance just at the law firms that we were looking at based on their domains. So obviously we can't target that many. So we're going to add something for seniority. So let's just say we want to focus on people that are senior, manager, head, director, VP, C-suite partner, owner. So basically not lower level employees. That's going to allow us to filter for more decision makers that maybe have the purchasing power for the product or the service that we want to sell. So now we have that filtered down, 17,000 people. And if you do this, watch, you write to a new table, we're going to get all 17,766 all imported in that table, completely free, no credits, no cost, and we're going to have the LinkedIn profiles and names of all these people, including their job titles. So now we have a list. We could add filters for location, like just people in California, or we could decide we want to target all of these. But where it gets really cool is when you want to find accurate contact information for these people at scale, that's where Clay is really powerful. Clay is really well known for what's called their waterfall enrichments. So we're going to do work email, and I'll show you how this works. So what this is going to do is we're going to put in the person's full name, the domain of the company, company name, their LinkedIn URL, and the company social profile, the company LinkedIn URL. So then what we can do is we can go over here, and this gives you access to all of the data providers that I was mentioning earlier. So for example, I like Lead Magic is one of the best ones in my opinion. You're basically, what you're doing in this scenario is you're asking Clay to check different databases, and if it can't find something, it moves on to the next one. So I put Lead Magic up front. I like Wizza, I like Find Email, 100 Prospero, those are good. We can get rid of all these other ones. Oh, ICPs is great too. Let's throw them up here. Now, this is where it gets tricky. You can use a lot of Clay credits doing enrichments like this. And so sometimes if you're doing a really large list, like if you're trying to send thousands of emails every day, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to create probably your own accounts with some of these things. I think Lead Magic is one of the best email enrichment tools on the market right now. And if you see their pricing, you can get 10,000 enrichment credits for $100 a month, which is going to be a lot cheaper than using your Clay credits inside of Clay. So if you're doing this a lot, it may make sense to have a subscription like this and then use your API key to run this. Similarly, when when you look here, what Clay allows you to do is actually validate using these same things to say, is this a verified or safe to send email? Because you don't want to be sending emails to old emails that bounce and things like that. So what you can do is you can actually use one of the providers here. I think Enrichly is one of the best ones. That's the one I like because it validates catch-all emails. And then this similarly though, if you're doing this on tens of thousands of leads, you may want to get your own API key. There's another tool called RioOn. It does a pretty good job, but it's also a lot more cost effective. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll run a batch of emails through RioOn just to get the bad ones out, and then we'll revalidate with something like Enrichly. But just for the sake of this, I want to show you, go back to here. So we're going to find this table. So we have this all set up. We're going to run our enrichments, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go in here and you just go save and run, and it's going to run and it's going to find email addresses for the contacts on this list. So what you can see happening here is you can see that it's checking different providers and it's saying, oh, if it can't find one here, it's going to move on to the next one and try and find that. So what you can see is it's checked here, it found some of them on Lead Magic, and then it validated them. It couldn't find them on ICPs. Now it's checking Wiz, and it's going to run through this entire waterfall until at the end we get accurate work emails for almost all the contacts we want to target. Now there's a lot of other enrichments that you may want to run to make this really good. What you'll notice too is a lot of times people have interesting first names set up on LinkedIn, and we don't want to have that happen. So we want to create some sort of normalization. Like we don't want to use a token that says, hey, Carlos AF, or hey, Nagendra Kishore NK in a token in an email. So what you're going to want to do is you can add in things like, we're going to do use AI, and this is what's cool is Clay will actually help you generate the prompt to do this. So I want to normalize the first name so that it is always sentence case, has no emojis, and is only the first name. And then Clay will actually help you come up with an AI prompt to clean up that name so you have a really accurate token that you can insert into your emails or whatever outreach you want to make. See, it's going to give this really, really long, detailed prompt. And it's recommending 4.1 nano. I have an API key with ChatGPT to use API credits instead of Clay credits, but also too, you could go with different models here using ChatGPT or Anthropic or whatever you want. So you're going to save and run that, and then what you're going to see is it's going to spit out the outputs here for the first name. So AI normalized first name. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say, you can see these all look really nice, super clean. And then the other thing too is sometimes LinkedIn has outdated information. So another one we like to do is use AI and the Clayagent specifically to verify their employment. LinkedIn profile and confirm that their current role is with. So then you see here, output is we have this prompt. It's going to go check their profile, confirm that they actually work at that company. So we're going to save and run that as well. So then what you can see here is I've got the normalized first name, and then you can see it actually ruled out that a lot of these people contacts don't actually work at that firm, which is great because we don't want to reach out to people and say, hey, I saw you work at so-and-so law firm, and be like, I don't work there anymore, or we'll get a bounced email. So what we can do is when we add these into our email campaigns, we can make sure we're only adding the ones that say, yes, they're filtered here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add these to an email chaser campaign. So if you actually want to reach out to these and send automated email sequences, you can do this with a tool called Email Chaser, which has everything you need to run fully automated email campaigns. So we're going to go over here, again, another API, HTTP API call. So we're going to set this up here. We've got our campaign ID already in the table, which I added before. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start grabbing the fields that we got from the enrichments that we ran. So we're going to do the work email. We're going to do the first name, and we're going to use the normalized first name that we had. We don't really need the last name because we're not going to say like, hey, Tyler Mounts in there. We're going to use just the first name. We can add it in for good measure, but we're not really going to use that as a token. And then we want the LinkedIn profile, job title, and the company domain. Send all those over, apply the template. And what you can see here is we're going to add those right into our email chaser campaign. So there you have it. I just ran this on a small sample of the list that we had, but I wanted to show you because Clay runs these things in parallel. So if you wanted to do this on a list of tens of thousands, it wouldn't take much longer. Sure, you have to run the enrichments and things, but again, it's way better than trying to do all this manual. The other thing too is that you can get really, really detailed. So whether you want to go with 10,000 or 20,000 or 50,000 people at one time, or if you want to narrow down based on these filters and criteria, Clay can help you enrich that data so you can get the targeted list that you want for your campaigns. So what do you do with these leads? For me and my agency, we focus on targeted B2B to be ads, but if you wanted to start sending automated email campaigns directly to their inbox without landing in spam, you could use a tool like Email Chaser. Just sign up with the first link in the comments and you'll get a free 14-day trial. Email Chaser makes it super easy to reach out to thousands of leads without ever having to do anything. You just wait for the replies to come in. And with the high quality data that you're getting from Clay, your campaigns are going to be much more effective. So again, click the first link in the description if you want to try it out. My name is Tyler Mounts. I'm the founder of Amplius. I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough of how to get a large number of high quality leads using Clay. And if you want to see how I scraped in an unlimited amount of leads all on autopilot using end-to-end, make sure you watch this video next.